Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. Today we have a historical armor evaluation of 3 sets of Imperial Armour from The Elder Scrolls 3, 4 and 5, Morrowind, Oblivion and Skyrim respectively. Before we begin, a quick disclaimer for those of you who are not yet members of the community and therefore are guests today here. I scrutinize and evaluate these games from a historical perspective, not to point the finger at these games, but to have a fun and interesting way to learn and elucidate history and historical warfare. Expecting games, and in particular fantasy games, to behave according to the laws of our world would be rather nonsensical, and this obviously applies to the setting of the Elder Scrolls series. A world permeated with magic. We are just indulging ourselves with an opportunity to study history and talk about our favorite games at the same time. So, starting with Morrowind first, I have chosen to speak about the Imperial Steel Armour. It comprises boots, cuirass, greaves, helmet, left gauntlet, left pauldron, right gauntlet, right pauldron. The helmet clearly resembles a Roman helmet. To be specific, I believe the artist took inspiration from Roman Gallic Imperial helmets. Now, having a look at Imperial Gallic from Type A to Type J, I would say the Imperial Steel helmet is reminiscent of either Type H or Type C, considering they are the most compact ones, if you will. Also, the brim at the front of the helmet, the backplate, which differentiates it from a Type D, are all very Roman. What the game calls boots encompass also the actual greaves or shin protection, while what the game calls greaves are more like cuisse and belt. The boots and the greaves, to use the game terminology, are where the set starts looking medieval, although the belt is somewhat reminiscent of a Roman cingulum or cingulum for the ecclesiastical pronunciation. The cuirass is a fully enclosed one. The proportions don't seem to be too inconsistent as in other games, as it does seem to somewhat tailor at the waist for what I can see. So I would say it's an in-between a Roman musculata, probably one of those that we see in statues of emperors, but without the actual muscles, and perhaps a late 14th century backplate. We can also see that there is some mail underneath it, which clearly makes it more medieval looking. From Oblivion we are looking at the Legion armor. This armor, or this set, is similar to the Imperial Dragon armor and the Imperial Watcher armor, the only difference being different coloration and patterns. It comprises mail and plate. The steel appears to be blackened. The set comprises helmet, cuirass, gauntlets, greaves, boots and shield. The helmet has 2 variants, watch helmet and horseman helmet. The earlier is worn by guards on horseback, while the latter is worn by guards in the Imperial City and has a mane. The mane runs across the top of the helmet, front to back, and it gives it a bit of a Greek look, in my opinion. The whole set having the appearance of a late 15th century harness, the helmet being perhaps an in-between a medieval barbute and a Greek helmet. The pauldrons are symmetric. They resemble some sort of Gothic style armor, but they do seem to be a bit too bulky. This is clearly a stylistic choice to make the armor look more imposing. The shield is rounded, but appears to be made entirely of metal. And this is one of the problems we often have with these games. Most shields in both classical times and medieval times were made of wood, some of which had some reinforcements in metal. There were some rare occasions of shields made entirely of metal, for example bucklers, or the Italian lantern shield I have discussed in the dedicated video. But in all cases, it would have been some sort of thin metal. These games instead, plates, both belonging to the armor and the actual shields, tend to have such thickness that it would be almost impossible to operate the shields or to even wear such armors because of the excessive weight they would have. Even Greek aspis or oplon, famous shields used by the hoplites, Greek hoplites, had a core made of wood, a wooden core, and they would only have bronze reinforcements on top of it, and already like that weighted around 7 kilos. Round shields were used in early medieval times. This sort of shields kind of resembles perhaps some sort of targe, although it does seem rather unique in its style. The gauntlets in Oblivion are rather enigmatic because they seem to be fully articulated, but we do see a difference in color for the part protecting the fingers. If the fingers are protected by plate, then we are definitely talking about fully articulated late 14th century gauntlets. But if the difference of color means that we are in the presence of only a protection of gloves, so an actual detachment from the rest of the metal gauntlet, then we would be having demi-gauntlets. I would rather consider a higher chance of having fully articulated 14th century like gauntlets, but I don't have enough data to form a coherent opinion. Moving on to Skyrim, we're having a look at the heavy Imperial set. It comprises armor, boots, braces, helmet and shield. Again, we see how the Elder Scrolls series in Skyrim goes back to the Roman look. The boots seem to be demi-greaves, as far as I can see only the front of the shin is protected by metal plates. The armor is between a Roman lorica segmentata, as we can see the front breastplate, the way the two plates, the left and the right plate, are united and connected by a hinge, and also the fact that we have some segments underneath it clearly show again Roman design. The same for the color. The red color, typical Roman, although I will talk specifically about other possible colors in Roman legions, but color typically resembling Roman forces, and the whole pauldron looks rather medieval. So it is again an in-between a medieval breastplate, heavily influenced by Roman lorica segmentata of Imperial time. The shield looks like a kite shield, or a heavily reinforced version of a kite shield, considering the fact that it seems like the core is wooden. I would consider this shield to be more believable than the one used by the Imperial Guards in Oblivion. The helmet is probably the most interesting part, as again it does have a resemblance to Roman helmets, but it's less similar to a Roman helmet than the one we found in Morrowind. In this case, I would say it's more a mixture or a fusion between a Roman imperial helmet with some influence from Anglo-Saxon or early Viking helmets, as far as the shape of the actual skull of the helmet is concerned. Alright then, so as far as I'm concerned, I have to say that out of the three Imperial, I tend to prefer the Imperial armor in Skyrim because of my obsession for Roman armor, but I do have to say that as far as the pathos and lore of the game, I find the Imperial armor in Oblivion to be more interesting. So, what is your favorite Imperial set? Please let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please remember, thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. Please remember that I upload daily. And remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.